I ultimately won sole custody of my children, secured my home and my finances, and watched as my ex-wife's web of lies completely unraveled in court. And it all started the day her own best friend decided she'd had enough. My divorce from my ex-wife, let's call her Jessica, was finalized over 5 years ago. The reason for the split was her repeated cheating, with over 13 different men and 2 women. To give some context, Jessica and I had been swingers for most of our marriage, but I had put a stop to it in the final year. Things had spiraled out of control, and I told her I was done swapping partners. Unfortunately, she didn't agree and simply continued hooking up with men behind my back. The situation took a dark turn 6 months before our divorce when our oldest child was diagnosed with a life-threatening illness. Instead of us coming together, Jessica started to crack under the pressure. Her drinking escalated dramatically, and she began putting herself and our children in real danger. It got so bad that I eventually took our kids and moved out for a couple of weeks just to ensure their safety. It was during this time that her best friend, we'll call her Olivia, approached me. Jessica had gotten drunk at a girls' night out and confessed everything to her. She admitted she'd been sleeping with a new guy every night and getting drunk while she was supposed to be caring for our children. The most horrifying part was her confession that about a month prior, she left our 3-year-old and 4-year-old home alone while they slept so she could go meet a man. Olivia also told me that Jessica was planning to file for divorce, but only after she had drained more money from me while living rent-free in my house. Olivia and I were both disgusted. We knew this had to end. We needed a plan to get her out of the house and document her behavior to limit her custody. Jessica hated living with me because it stopped her from entertaining her flock of desperate men. So, step 1 was for me to move my happy ass back into our shared home and plop down on the bed right next to her. She lost her mind. She screamed at me, demanding I get out of the house immediately and threatening to call the police. What she didn't know was that I was recording the entire conversation on my phone. I told her to pound sand, and she made good on her threat, calling the cops and reporting me for domestic violence. Jessica made a fatal miscalculation at that moment, dialing those 3 numbers with a sense of triumphant glee. She was completely unaware that the call wouldn't trap me, but would instead spring the very first bar on the cage she was building for herself. The police showed up in no time and had me in cuffs so fast my head spun. As a detective came to the squad car to talk to me, I simply asked him to listen to my recording. The more he listened, the angrier he became, not at me, but at my wife. Before long, the cuffs were off my wrists and onto hers. She was the one who spent the night in jail, with a restraining order in place. Jessica couldn't return to the house and went to stay with Olivia for the next week. This revealed Jessica's greatest fatal flaw, her impulsive and self-destructive nature. Instead of realizing the gravity of her situation, her first instinct was to go on a veritable spending spree, buying a new laptop, a new iPhone at full retail price, and an entire new wardrobe. She drained our joint bank account and started dipping into my personal savings. Meanwhile, Olivia confirmed Jessica was drinking heavily at her house, at one point getting so drunk that she threw up and defecated all over Olivia's bathroom. Olivia, for posterity's sake, video recorded the bender, providing me with 20 minutes of footage showing a woman completely out of control. The next day, I went to the bank, withdrew all the money from our savings, and deposited it into a new account solely in my name to pay the bills. I closed the old account so she couldn't use overdraft protection and stick me with the bill. I also closed all our joint credit cards and transferred all my investment accounts into my name only. When Jessica found out her money supply was cut off, she lost it. She told Olivia she was contemplating suicide because her life was falling apart. As much as I hated her, I didn't want to see her harm herself. Olivia gently convinced her that she needed help and went with her as she checked into an inpatient mental hospital. This was a fantastic development. She was getting help. But it also officially documented that she was a danger to herself and, by extension, our kids. As one online commenter astutely noted, you must build a case before going through divorce proceedings. As a simple he said, she said will 99% of the time go to the woman. I was very lucky to have an insider in Olivia who testified on my behalf. With Jessica in the hospital, it was time to seal the deal. I met with my attorney, who was appalled by Jessica's actions and fully on board with helping me get primary custody. He immediately filed for divorce and got a judge to issue a temporary restraining order until our initial hearing. We had Jessica served with the divorce papers while she was still in the hospital. At the initial hearing 2 weeks later, she showed up with her attorney, completely unaware of the mountain of evidence we had. She got on the stand and put on a Grammy-worthy performance, lying through her teeth about how my abuse had pushed her into the mental hospital. She painted a very compelling picture of a terrified victim. Then it was my turn. My attorney systematically presented all the evidence, the audio recording of her false police report, the bank records of her spending spree, and the video of her drunken breakdown. But the defining moment was when he called Olivia to the stand. The courtroom was silent as Olivia told a harrowing story of a neglectful, out-of-control mother with a spiraling substance abuse problem. She recounted the nights of binge drinking, the parade of men, and the chilling confession of leaving her toddlers home alone. As Olivia spoke, Jessica's jaw hung open in disbelief. Her performance crumbled, and every lie she had just told the judge was exposed, making her own attorney look like a fool. When the dust settled, the judge's decision was swift. I was awarded sole custody, and Jessica was granted only supervised visitation until she completed rehab and additional mental health counseling. We quickly settled out of court. The terms were clear. I got the house after paying her a small portion of the equity. I kept all of my investment accounts. And most importantly, I got to have my kids 80% of the time. She ended up living with her mother for the next 2.5 years, jumping from one dead-end job to another. 5 years down the road, life is good. It's even better knowing she isn't my problem anymore. As another person commented after hearing my story, good for you for getting your kids out of her care. You're a great dad. And at the end of the day, that's all that ever mattered. This story is a powerful lesson in how to methodically dismantle a manipulator's narrative with cold, hard facts. When faced with lies, the best defense is always an overwhelming, undeniable truth. So, let me ask you, what is the single most important piece of evidence someone can have when they know they're heading for a legal battle?